7.2, the sine and cosine functions. Before discussing sine and cosine functions, we need to develop a common lexicon. The initial side of an angle is the side we begin our measurement from. For example, if we are considering that angle, our initial side exists there. Terminal side. The terminal side is the side of the angle where our measurement ends. In the angle shown, the terminal side would be right there. Now, coterminal angles. Coterminal angles share a terminal side. We have the angle we initially drew. We'll add a little arrow to it. And then a coterminal angle, for example, would be formed like that. Any two angles that share the same terminal side. Another coterminal angle would be found like that by wrapping back around again. Next, a positive angle. Any angle formed by rotating counterclockwise. So counterclockwise rotation, that is an example of positive rotation. A negative angle is the opposite. Here we have negative rotation. An angle is said to be in standard position if the initial side is the positive x-axis. So our first angle in blue right here, this angle is in standard position. Should also add and rotation is positive. Reference angles. reference angles are the angles formed between the x-axis and the terminal side. So, for example, if we were considering an angle that had terminal side here, so there would be the angle. The reference angle would actually be that measure from the x-axis. Quadrant. Quadrants are labeled as follows: first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. And the unit circle is this whole figure. The unit circle is a circle with radius 1, centered at the origin, and frequently we will also draw in a large number of common angles as well to be of assistance as we calculate various trigonometric values. For example, this angle is 45 degrees. This angle is 90 degrees. This angle is 135 degrees, and so forth. We also have 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 120 degrees, 150 degrees, and 180 degrees. We can continue on labeling our circle as we go. Of course, our start position is 0 degrees, and it's also 360 degrees. Now, classify the angles below by quadrant and determine the measure of the reference angle for each. Well, 150 degrees. That is actually an angle we just put into place. Right there, 150 degrees. So it is in fact the angle measure that is in green right here. 150 degrees is in the second quadrant. Which you will also see written as Q Q2, and it has a reference angle of 30 degrees. We say that the reference angle is 30 degrees because the difference between 150 degrees and the x-axis, 180 degrees, is a 30-degree sweep. So the reference angle there then measures 30 degrees. Now, for 260 degrees, that angle, we go all the way past 180, but we don't quite get to 270. So we are going to be living somewhere around in there. We would expect to see that sort of a sweep. Call that (260 degrees). The question is, what quadrant do we live in? Well, that is quadrant 3. The next question is, what's the reference angle? And if we do 260 minus 180, remember we are looking for the angle measured back, or the angle measured from the x-axis. 260 minus 180 gives us 80 degrees. Okay. 40 degrees is very convenient. 40 degrees lives somewhere around in here. So 40 degrees is its own reference angle. It lives in quadrant 1. And that's all there is to say. 300 degrees. Let's get our 40 degrees out of the picture and move in to look at 300. 300 degrees is a long ways around. We can see it right here. If we were thinking about that as a full angle, it's going to go all the way to there. And we can immediately see that we're living in the fourth quadrant, so we'll say Q4. Next, we need to find a reference angle. So in this case, our reference angle comes from the positive x-axis. And that difference, that angle measure there, is 60 degrees. So that says that 60 degrees is our reference angle.